Welcome to a new episode of the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas playthrough. This is part 11. We usually have sound, but unfortunately for this episode we did not have sound for the game, which is very unfortunate. However, I'm going to go through a short summary of what happened in the video that was recorded. CJ has arrived at Catalina's shack. At least I call it a shack because it looks like a shack. For some time, Catalina does not show up until at one point Catalina threatened to shoot CJ, ending his life prematurely, but eventually that did not happen. So the two made amends and they make it towards a certain place to rob, and that place turns out to be a liquor store. Catalina was under the impression that this would be a piece of cake. Little did she know that 3 or 4 cowboys decided to rob the place for themselves. And because of that, Catalina and CJ would have to chase those cowboys and get the money from them. Things just became a little bit more complicated than usual. But eventually, they managed to get all 4 of them, and the money is theirs for the taking. It ain't much, but at least it's something. Later on, CJ received a call from Catalina's cousin Caesar, and Caesar mentioned something about racing cars happening just nearby in the countryside. So CJ decides to take a look at it. CJ eventually arrives, but Caesar came in just a little bit late. Either way, they eventually met a certain person in sunglasses who is a Chinese man who's called Woozy. And CJ and Caesar are a little bit suspicious of them. At around the same time, just behind CJ there was a certain young man in a leather jacket who looks suspiciously familiar and looks like he could be a threat. Race would go on, and it will not take long for CJ to take the lead. The race itself was pretty much a piece of cake for CJ, apart from a little bit of a skirmish. CJ came away unscathed and won himself some cash and a brand new race car. At the same time, Woozy advised CJ to run away from the race venue since the cops are starting to look for the races. CJ returns to Catalina's place and wants to proceed with robbing a proper bank this time. However, instead of a bank, CJ ended up in a betting shop. Catalina has her own ideas and it looks like it's coming to fruition. Unfortunately, somebody sounded the alarm and Catalina shot 2 people. And it turns out that CJ had to blow up the doors to get to the safe, hurting himself in the process, but eventually he managed to get some cash out of the safe by using a satchel to blow up the safe. The 2 then made a run for it, not before going through some police officers in the countryside, but eventually they made their way back to the hideout. The reward is $2,000, which is a lot more than the liquor store. But still, CJ is looking for more money because he needs to get his brother out of prison and also has to go back to Los Santos. In the meantime, there is another phone call and it is from Catalina, who is a little bit mad for some reason. CJ arrived and Catalina burst out to him in anger, which was a bit unfounded, especially because they just had a successful betting shop robbery recently. Catalina was berating CJ due to some stuff that she watched in television and read in books, which is unfortunate because CJ did not do anything wrong in the first place. It is the moment of truth as CJ and Catalina decides to rob a real bank this time, although it's a small town bank in the middle of the countryside. CJ tried to keep them honest, but unfortunately the security guard started shooting, and so they had to make a run for it as the cops are alarmed. Catalina ordered CJ to shoot the ATM machines and get the money. Once the money is retrieved, They had to go through the back door and go through a gang of cops, country cops to be exact, and they are quite tough. Good thing is that CJ and Catalina got them covered, and they managed to get away from the bank with the help of 2 police motorbikes. It was a frantic chase, but Catalina would fall off her bike, but CJ was there to pick her up, and eventually both of them made their way back to the hideout with the money. Catalina was adamant that this would be their final job and the split was amicable. Either way, Catalina said that CJ would regret leaving Catalina. The upside is that CJ earned quite a lot of money from this job, $10,000, not bad for a small town bank. A race was set to take place in the middle of the night. Catalina shows up with her new boy toy, and then she went on to berate CJ again and even smashed his car. The good thing is that the damage is only cosmetic, the car still works fine, and CJ would go on to win the race, just like a piece of cake. Catalina was infuriated, but claimed that she was being satisfied by her new boy toy. CJ would receive a pink slip, a deed to a garage in San Fierro, because Catalina and her new boy toy have to leave town to go to Liberty City. CJ wished the two of them well. There was an awkward back and forth for a while, but CJ left anyway. With Catalina leaving to Liberty City, the hideout is now CJ's, and he received a phone call from the Truth. Truth mentioned that he has the money that CJ is looking for, but he also needs some help at his village up in the hills. So CJ decides to head there.